raised in Macoupin County. State Senator Andy Menard and his wife Trista are now raising their 3 children just 3 blocks from where Andy grew up in Bunker Hill. And through this heritage, Andy believes state government could use more of the small town values to make Central Illinois a great place to live, raise a family, hard work, honesty, accountability, and working together to get things done. As mayor of Bunker Hill and later the Macoupin County Board Chairman, Andy put those values to work creating jobs, improving accountability, building a strong record of reform, bipartisan cooperation, fiscal responsibility, and transparency. He's done the same since becoming our new senator and has created a firestorm of conversation on education reform with the sponsorship of Senate Bill 16. There's nowhere in the state you can go that this hasn't been a topic of discussion. And let's hear from our 48th District State Senator Andy Menard.
So many friendly faces here this evening. Good evening to everyone. Let me begin by sharing just 2 quick stories. The other day I was in the headquarters, and I don't remember if I was in the headquarters here in Decatur or in Senator Durbin's headquarters in Springfield. My days run together this time of year, but I snapped a photo of another photo that was on the wall, and I had forgotten about it until the drive to Decatur from Springfield this evening. And when I was walking in, I remembered that I took this photo. And I pulled it up on my phone, and it dawned on me how much of a privilege it is to serve Decatur and Springfield and Central Illinois in the state Senate. This photo was a picture of John Dunn, of Penny Severns, of Dick Durbin, and of Paul Simon. And I'm pretty sure it was taken here in Decatur. And let me begin by just saying to each of you that it is a true privilege to work in the shadow of Penny Severns in the state Senate. And it's something that I take seriously every day that I go into the Capitol building and every day that I'm in the 48th Senate District. One other story. Back in, I think this was 1996, Governor Edgar, way back when, I was in college, I think I was a freshman or sophomore in college, Governor Edgar called the legislature together for a joint session of the General Assembly to talk about the issue that Jim just mentioned, the importance of equity when it comes to school funding in the state of Illinois 2 decades ago. And my state senator at the time, a guy by the name of Vince DiMuzio, who I didn't know that well, he was a mammoth of a figure in Macoupin County. He was a legend, still is today. He was someone who was revered and feared at the same time. I knew of him, but I didn't know him that well. But I met him a few places along the way, and he called me out of the blue, and he said, "Hey, Andy, Governor called a joint session of the General Assembly. Why don't you go to Springfield with me, and why don't we listen to what he has to say?" So he drove from Carlinville to Bunker Hill, which is opposite of Springfield, to pick me up. And it was the second time I stepped foot in the Capitol building. The other time, I think, was on a Boy Scout trip or something like that. And I went into the House chamber. First time I had been in the House chamber. I'd never been in the Senate chamber. And the governor came in and he did a speech. And I sat between 2 people. I sat between, of course, Senator Vince DiMuzio, and I also sat next to Senator Penny Severns at the time. And so if someone back then were to tell me that I'd be standing here in this capacity, representing a good portion of Vince DiMuzio's old district, and of course a good portion of Senator Severns' old district, I would have said you're absolutely crazy. So it is a true privilege and honor to be here representing Decatur and the Vince DiMuzio Expressway and the Penny Severns Expressway in the state Senate. I don't think there could be a more fitting person to honor this evening than Amy Stockwell. I, too, like Sue, came to Amy very early on when I was considering running for the state Senate. And I think to say that we see things the same way and we see politics the same way would be an understatement. She knows that good government is good politics, which makes her a good Democrat, which makes us good Democrats. And I can think of no greater person to honor this evening than Amy Stockwell for the work that she has done, not just for the Democratic Party in Macon County, but for taxpayers and all the citizens of Macon County. She's a leader in the state. would say, I could say the same things about her. She is a leader not just in Cook County, but in the state of Illinois. She is a reformer in every sense of the word. She knows that when government works, that's not good for taxpayers and people. It's good for politics, and it's good for Democrats. And those are things that we have to remember going into the election this November. So, President Preckwinkle, thank you for coming to Decatur this evening. In closing, I just want to say, how about this? 3 women that we're honoring tonight. It's fitting, it's appropriate, it's too rare, in my opinion, but we shouldn't forget the fact that this is happening here in Decatur, and this is a tradition in Decatur. And again, I thank you all for your support. It is a privilege to serve you with your help. This 2-year term that I'm in now, it's going to be a 4-year term after November, and I look forward to working with you for years to come. Thank you.
Senator. Small town values are no stranger to our next speaker either. But the word small doesn't show up in much anything else he does. The slogan of standing tall for Illinois, and at 6 feet 8 inches, Mike Frericks is 4 inches taller than Abraham Lincoln. He's ready to make a tall impact on the state of Illinois. He was born and raised in the small town of Gifford, 975 people there. Father a Teamster, mother a university secretary, and ASPE member. Graduated from Yale. In 1995, returned home to teach and manage a safety engineering company. It wasn't long before politics were in his blood. He was elected to the county board in 2000, Champaign County auditor in 2002, served as volunteer firefighter and on a board of a local nonprofit nursing home. In 2007, Mike was sworn in as the 52nd District State Senator, which includes parts of Champaign and Vermilion County. He's been chairman of the Agriculture and Conservation Committee, chairman of the Higher Education Committee. And last year, with that education background and experience, all that well put together, he made the decision to run for state treasurer. He's been in Decatur many times and has our full support. Oh, and I forgot, he speaks fluent Chinese, so if anybody wants an interpretation from a little bit later after I have a couple of beers, let me know. Mike Frericks, our next state treasurer.
Take you around and introduce me places. I now don't have to give my speech for state treasurer. And I wasn't planning on giving my speech for state treasurer. When I first heard about this night, as a statewide candidate, someone, you get invited to a lot of Jefferson Jackson dinners, or a Truman dinner, or friend of the Roosevelts, and I go because you're a candidate. But when I heard about this dinner, I called Jim and said, Jim, I have to speak at this dinner. And I won't even talk about the fact that I'm running for state treasurer. Because, you know, when I came here, I went around and introduced myself. I introduced myself as what I was doing, what I was running for. And I looked around and I saw a lot of friends. You know, we have friends in organized labor. We have friends in companies here. We have a lot of friends buying tickets. But then I saw some of the tables in the back here didn't have a nameplate on them. Didn't identify who was sitting at that table. And I'd ask all of them, what brings you here? Are you friends? And the response I heard often was, yeah, we're friends. We're friends of Amy. And so I'm here today to tell you, I too am a friend of Amy. Now, it was a pleasure to come here for your recipient tonight. You know, many of you have known Amy longer than I have. Many of you have worked in county government with her. But unless I miss someone, no one else in this room has served in the same position, the same office, as Amy and I. As a matter of fact, we both came in as county auditors in the same year, in 2002. Now, my story for coming in is I was serving on the Champaign County Board. I was running an engineering company, and our county auditor chose to retire midterm. She came to me and said, Mike, I'm looking to retire, and I would like you to take my position. She was able to say that because she was also the county party chairman, so she had a pretty good lock on that. And I had to tell her, I said, Jerry, I don't know if you looked at my resume, but I don't think you find auditor anywhere in that resume. You know, I worked as a teacher. I worked running an engineering company. I'd been involved in the county board and running some races. I said, but I don't really have a background in accounting. She said to me, not a problem. I said, what do you mean not a problem? She says, We have CPAs in the office. They will help you out. So what you need is someone who understands politics and someone who can communicate with the public, with their fellow elected officials, and with the media. Because sometimes those CPAs aren't so confident and gregarious and outgoing with people. Now, I think in Amy Stockwell, you found a great combination of both those attributes. You find someone who knows the job, knew it on day one, but also has a personality that appeals to people. So when I came in as county auditor, I made a decision that I need to learn in a hurry. And so I took classes at the Government Finance Office Association. I read up, I made a point to make sure I was educated about this office. And one of the things I thought I would do is there is an association of county auditors. And I said, I'm going to show up at their spring conference, and I'm going to look at some of these people who've done this job longer than I have, who have experience, and see if they can mentor me. Now we showed up in that spring, and both Amy and I were the new faces. We were the young people in this group because there was an election in 2002. We were both appointed. We looked at each other and met each other, and I will tell you, it didn't take very long to realize at that conference that when I wanted advice on how to run that office properly, when I wanted advice on someone who knew auditing and just knew good government, I didn't have to look at the auditors who had been there for 20 years. There was a young woman there who had been there about 7 months longer than me, who was a great resource. And we talked. I think we both had fresh ideas, different ideas than some of the people who had been there a little longer, and quite frankly, the auditor that I called on the most in my time as a Champaign County auditor for advice, that I called on for help, for guidance, was Amy Stockwell. And so when I saw that she was retiring today, or that you were honoring her today, I can tell you I was angry. What do you mean she's retiring? She's too young for this. Macon County needs her.
Amen.
But you know, I have to say she's given 12 good years of service to this county. And I think those 12 years of service have earned her a little bit of time for rest. And so after my initial anger, I called her up and congratulated her on retirement. I am sure that she is going to enjoy her retirement because I am sure that she socked away every nickel she has earned in her time as county auditor, and she is going to have one heck of a travel experience if she's willing to pry those nickels loose. It really is a pleasure, and Andy said you couldn't pick a better person to name the award after. And you picked a great person here, a great person to name the award after. You know, I came into politics just as Penny's career was ending. And I never had a chance to really get to know her. But there are an awful lot of friends of Penny Severns here today as well, who I've gotten to know. And they've told me stories. Loretta Durbin, Linda Hawker, Bill Land, people have told me stories of Penny Severns to make me really regret that I didn't get to know her. She really stood strong for this area. And I think that when I look at Amy Stockwell, I think you chose a great person to get this award and give it in Penny's name. You know, I've kept in touch with Amy. I've not been a county auditor now for 8 years. We've kept in touch, and most of the time I call now, I don't call for advice about the county auditor's position. I call to encourage her when some position comes open and available. And she has turned me down each time. I thought she's had a lot to give at higher levels here, but I was proud that she stayed here in Macon County, because that's the other thing that impressed me about Amy. You know, she was proud of her hometown, and she wanted to make sure this county improved. She wanted to make sure the county government ran more efficiently. Now, she came in under tough times, and she cleaned that office up and restored integrity and restored confidence in people in their county auditor. And so I was glad, I guess, in some way to see her stay put there. But she's someone who cares deeply about Macon County. And it reminds me of a quote of another Central Illinois politician. You know, Jim sort of alluded to it. I have a really favorite politician. He once was in the other party, but I'm sure if he were here today, he would run as a Democrat. He was a tall, lanky politician from Central Illinois, and I have a certain soft place in my heart for him. He had a quote. And he said, "I like to see a man proud of the place in which he lives." And I think that fits Amy Stockwell. She's proud of Macon County. But the other half of that Abraham Lincoln quote was, I like to see a man live so this place will be proud of him. And I think that is what Amy Stockwell has done. She has lived in a way that Macon County is proud of her. And I want to thank you all for coming out to honor her. Amy, I am proud to be your friend. I am proud to have served with you, and proud to see you enjoy your retirement. Thank you, Amy.
Paul Vallis is our next speaker. Paul's a longtime reformer, nationally renowned fiscal and education expert. Grew up in Chicago's South Side, attended Western Illinois University, has a degree in history and a master's in political science. Taught high school, community college over here in Taylorville. Been in 13 years in the National Guard. I think this reminds me of when your computer spits out about 50 pieces of paper and you didn't know that's how long his bio is. I recently learned that Paul was mentored by Dawn Clark Netsch, the trailblazing Democratic State Senator Comptroller and first woman to be nominated to run for Illinois governor. Remember who her running mate was? Severns. Paul also made a run for governor. He reformed the Chicago's Department of Revenue, their budget office. He's tasked to take over the Chicago public schools, implemented the largest expansion of early childhood programs in CPS history. He oversaw the school district of Philadelphia for 6 years. In 2007, he went to Louisiana to take over and rebuild after the Hurricane Katrina. He's got some great stories about that too. And he was recruited in 2011 for Connecticut's largest city as the superintendent of schools. All that should be enough, but he also followed devastating earthquake and tsunami, going to the Chilean government and then also to Haiti after earthquake. So I think you can see it's no surprise that Governor Pat Quinn chose Paul Vallis to be his lieutenant governor running mate. He brings a lifetime of experience and expertise to the ticket. He knows how to get things accomplished. I'm sure he's chomping at the bit here to come up and tell us why we don't need a billionaire for governor. And I doubt that after going to Haiti and the Chilean islands there that he's probably not been to the Cayman Islands. So let's hear from Paul Vallis.
That just means I'm really old. That's all that means. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to speak and on this really special day for Amy. It's been quite a career, and just this turnout tonight, and people from all over the state have come to salute you. It's just a testimony to your commitment to public service. And I want to congratulate you and wish you a Godspeed. And I know you're not done helping out your community. You'll just find another way to do it. So I just want to applaud you, and I want to applaud you on behalf of the governor. It's great to be back here. I don't know how I did when I ran against Blagojevich, but boy, am I having a hard time finding anyone who voted against me. So there must have been a massive voter fraud. Although I went to one community meeting and someone in the back stood up and said, "I voted against you, and I'll probably vote against you again." So there was one. I don't know if you survived that night, but it's great to be back here, and it's particularly great to be back here because I learned about government working for Illinois Senate President Phil Rock. He hired me. I remember I had just gotten out of the service, and I came over and I met him, and he says, I remember he asked me what I felt I should get paid, and like a fool I said the minimum, and that's what he gave me, the minimum, and I stuck with that minimum for about 4 years. But I remember how big his hands were. And I had the ability, I had the privilege of working with him and Linda Hawker and our great Senator Durbin's wife Loretta, and of course Bill Houlihan. Our kids, remember they used to. He had 3 at once. I had 3 on separate occasions, and then he had 1 or 2 more. I remember they would be jumping around the pole. Who would have thought? 2 of my boys ended up in the service. One just was a combat medic for the 5th Marine Regiment, home safe and sound. 2nd one's in the Marine Reserves, but they really drove. But it was such a great experience because, of course, Senate President Rock assigned me to Dawn Clark Netsch, who said, "What do I want him for? I'm going to pick my own staff person." And of course, I ended up working for Dawn and with Dawn for 10 years. just the greatest experience of my life. But it was such a dynamic group. Vince DiMuzio, remember Warren Ripley was my best friend. Warren staffed Vince's committee, I staffed Dawn's committee. Both Warren and Dawn, of course, used to drive Senate President Phil Rock crazy, but he was such a leader. He could put up with the independents in the caucus. I mean, it was a rare experience. And I also had the privilege of meeting and doing work for Penny Severns when she got elected. I remember her election. I remember how excited and thrilled we were when she won. It was just exhilarating, and I remember how her passing took something out of each and every one of us. So, that's what I'm a product of. I'm a product of that great Senate staff and those great individuals who taught me so much, taught me about government, taught me about public service. And I'll never forget those memories as long as I live, because they were the best times. They were the best times for me. I just wanted to say it's nice to be among friends and to see you again, and to really go back and look at those pictures. It's amazing, just absolutely amazing, amazing pictures. Governors tapped me to run with them as lieutenant governor. I know Pat Quinn for 30 years. And when we got a guy running as an independent, and he calls Pat Quinn a party insider. I don't know. I remember back in the 70s, we wanted to drive a stake through Pat's heart. He was pushing those referendums, and he was driving everybody crazy for the right reasons. So when he asked me to join as his lieutenant governor, I said, if he picks me, I know he's probably the majority of one or two, and I know he means business, and he did, and I'm proud and pleased to run against him. We're running against a guy who says he's an outsider, who's a businessman, who can lead Illinois because he can bring modern business practices. Well, what do we know? We know he's an insider. He's been contributing to both parties for years in multiple states. He's been getting state contracts. He's got more conflicts of interest you can shake a stick at. And we also know that he is a businessman, but he's not the type of businessman who creates jobs. He's the type of businessman who creates profit, not jobs. Because there are the businessmen that create jobs and profit along with it, and then reinvest that profit to create jobs. And then there are businessmen in the pursuit of profits. And you'll be hard-pressed to find companies that they've invested and that have resulted in job creation, that have resulted in product development, that have resulted in the improvement of services. When you buy nursing homes and you squeeze them for profits and then you sell them for profits, that's not job creation. So that's what we're running against. And what we have to do is we have to get that argument out. We have to make the public understand that this is what the race is about. The original outsider, the original man, an individual who became governor, and for the last 5 years has really tried to make the right decisions. The infrastructure reforms, restoring funding for pensions, finding ways to pass a comprehensive ethics reform bill. The pension reforms and those controversies, they're making the tough decisions. Medicaid reforms, reducing the size of government by about 4,000 employees. The cost of government today is less than what it was in 2008. The bottom line is, and then of course laying out a vision for the future before the election, not waiting until after the election to articulate what he felt we needed to do and where we needed to go. This is the type of man who is our governor, and we're running against somebody who we waited 500 days. And what do we get after 500 days? We got a spending plan that cut virtually nothing. It promised $1 billion in cuts and identified maybe 60 or 70 that might be plausible. We got a financing plan that's going to bust an $8 billion hole in the general fund's budget. After all the revenue from all those little taxes on services, after that revenue is counted, almost $8 billion. Half of that will come from elementary and secondary education, community colleges, and higher education. And then he has the audacity to say that he's going to give more money to schools, and he's not going to raise property taxes, as if the state makes ultimately that decision. We just hope that within the next 30 or 40 days, he might release his tax returns with the schedule, so we can really know where the income is coming from. We can really know what type of tax breaks he's taking advantage of, and maybe we can really know where those conflicts of interest are. I mean, it would be nice. And, you know, maybe based on the experiences of releasing his financial plan and releasing his budget plan, it might give him added reason to be a little secretive. Because we've now been waiting. We've been waiting for tax returns. We've been waiting for the schedules. We've been waiting for somebody to let us know what the record is. Where has the income been generated? Where are the conflicts of interest? And, you know, a simple release of the tax returns, or for that matter, a simple release of the investments made in the Cayman Islands, or the nature, or the individuals who you're in the limited partnerships, will go a long way towards full disclosure. Because you can't say, trust me, I'm paying all my taxes. You can't say, trust me, I'm going to balance the budget after slashing $8 billion, after taking $8 billion you know, in revenue out of the general fund's budget. You can't say, trust me, and not return that trust. And you return that trust by being honest and transparent and open. And that's what we need in this campaign. You know, Cook County President Preckwinkle is a professor. She's a history professor. And we've known each other for a long time. When I came to work for the city council, I was recruited from Springfield to work for the mayor. I eventually became the mayor's budget director, and I remember Tony was one of the real fierce independents in the city council, and someone who did as much teaching as anyone I've ever been in contact with. And I remember when I heard her speak when I joined this race, and she said that democracy is the best form of government, but also the most fragile, because it requires participation, because we have to get out and vote. But I'll tell you, that fragility is also there because it is a form of government that requires disclosure and transparency and honesty and openness. Because when we give individuals an opportunity to make the decisions to guide their future, they need to have the information at their disposal so that they can make informed choices. And that's what this is about, and that's what we're asking. That's what we're asking our opponent to do. Give the public a chance to see the facts, to see the reality, to have full transparency so that they can make their informed judgments. But, you know, at the end of the day, we got to get the vote out. It's really important that we do all we can to do that, because it's a participatory democracy, meaning if you don't participate in democracy, you don't benefit from it. But I want to thank you. I want to thank you for inviting me. I want to thank you for affording me an opportunity to honor one of your very own. And thanks for that great introduction. God bless all of you.